I'm going to be walking you through Claude Cowork and the Claude ecosystem as a whole. Over this week, I want to deep dive into Claude. We're talking about Claude the chatbot, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code, as well as talking about skills, MCP, connectors, etc. There is a lot in this ecosystem, and I know for the people who try it out for the first time, it can be very confusing, especially because everything begins with a C. Thankfully, it doesn't begin with an R. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble because I can't pronounce my R's. But we have Claude Code, we have Claude Cowork. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at Cowork in particular, because Cowork is really exciting. If you got excited about OpenClaw, but maybe you found OpenClaw a little bit intimidating because it was too technical, then Cowork should be very exciting. And we're going to be looking at it and why it's great for your business and your personal life. This was a couple of weeks ago. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, about $830 billion was wiped off the American stock market, primarily from technical stocks, mainly in SaaS, so software as a service. The reason for this was it's becoming clear that we can now basically spin up our own software. We can spin up our own automations. We can get AI to do the work for us. I saw this tweet a few days ago from Ethan Mollick, which I think is relevant, where he talks about the 4 big shifts that he's seen in artificial intelligence. Ethan Mollick is a professor at Wharton. He says, from an AI user perspective, the big 4 have been GPT 3.5. That was the first big Gen AI moment. That was when I realized I had to shut down my digital marketing agency because we were going to be in trouble a couple of years from now. That was just over 3 years ago. Then we had GPT-4. GPT 3.5 wasn't quite ready. It hadn't fully cooked. When it came out, it had a lot of problems. It would hallucinate. It didn't have web search. It would just make shit up. And a lot of people tried GPT-5, 3.5 back in the day, and they're like, I don't really get it, and they bounced off it. GPT-4 was the more fully fledged version that probably should have been the first consumer release. Google had something similar to GPT 3.5, but they didn't release it because they thought, no, it's not ready and the public won't get it. That's how ChatGPT and OpenAI stole a march on Google. GPT-4 was the first one where it's like, okay, we can actually use this professionally. This is going to be exciting. But that came 6 months after 3.5. Then we had the reasoners. This is when we started to explicitly use chain of thought and other techniques to reason through problems. At base, it's the AI going through step by step and prompting themselves and asking themselves questions in order to get better results. So we now have deep think modes, we have research modes, which are all built off these early reasoner models. The first big one was probably O3, which was only in spring 2025. Literally a year ago was when we got the first reasoning systems. Since then, it's exploded in terms of complexity and intelligence. We are now at, as of December 2025, proper workable agentic systems. An agentic system is one that doesn't just chat to you, it will actually do the work for you. That is the shift we are seeing now, and Cowork is part of that, as well as Claude Code. I'll talk about them all in a moment. Agents was a big buzzword in 2025, but they were crap. They didn't really do the work. There was a lot of chat about it, things like AutoGPT, anyone remember that? But it was in December that we got OpenClaw, then called ClaudeBot, and then we've had more refined versions for that in the last couple of months. So we have things like Claude Cowork, we have Perplexity Computer, Manus Agent. We have a whole bunch of more consumer-facing agents which now actually work. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, Cowork, because a lot of people are sleeping on this right now. The big shift that we are seeing, and a lot of people have not realized this, is we are moving from chat. For the last couple of years, since 2023, we've been chatting to our AI, and it would tell us what we should do. So you can talk to it and say, hey, I'm thinking about putting together a marketing plan. What kind of things do you think we could do? And we could go back and forward. Now, when I talk to my Claude and say, hey, I'm putting together a marketing plan, I'm going to start doing a lot more DM giveaways, direct message giveaways on TikTok and Instagram. I want to look at what competitors are doing. I want to look at what topics are trending, etc. Previously, my AI would say, oh, what a great idea. It might go off and do some research, and then it would bring everything back to me and it would give me a plan of attack. That's changed in the last 2 or 3 months. This is the new wave of artificial intelligence that a lot of people are still not on. Now, when I go to my AI and I say, this is what I want to do, it will say, okay, it will put together a plan and then it will go and do. It will say, I need to connect to Twitter. So I'm going to need this API connection. I need this MCP. And if we want to get the transcripts of these TikTok videos, let me quickly spin up a connection with Apify, and we're going to scrape them. And I need to navigate around a website, so I'm going to use Playwright in order to automate your browser. I'm going to have a look around there. Suddenly it is of doing the task. This is a shift. We're not talking about the task with the AI anymore. It's getting on and doing the damn thing. Huge shift and very exciting. And this is why you've probably seen on social media a lot of people suddenly extremely excited about what they can do, but also a little bit overwhelmed, because suddenly it's, oh crap, we can just turn these AIs on anything. And if I am not running 5-6 agents off doing different things for me at the same time, I start to feel like I'm not being productive. So it's a very strange period. We are early. Most people are not using AI. The people who are using AI, a lot of them are still using it as a Google replacement. So they're using it for information retrieval. And then even the people who have been using AI for a while, they are still mainly chatting and responding with AI. They're not having AI go and do the tasks for us. That's what Cowork is for. That's what these new agentic systems. What we're going to do is we're going to set up Cowork. Let me jump over to it. There it is. You are going to go and download Cowork. You download the Claude application, and you can see at the top we have 3 different icons. We have chat, we have Cowork, and we have code. These are the 3 elements of Claude. We'll talk about what they all are in a moment, but you're going to download the app version. You have to get the desktop application. This will not work on your telephone. This will not work on the web version. You can use code and chat on the web version. You cannot use Cowork. The reason for this is Cowork is going to take control of our computer. It's going to do stuff for us on our computer, on a local machine. That's why we have to have it on a desktop. You're going to download this. You will need the paid version. You're going to need at least $20 a month. You might need the $100 a month if you start to use it a lot. If you're running a business, this is a small expense. If you are doing it personally, obviously that costs a bit more. You're basically going to give it a folder. So Claude Cowork is not chatty. You're going to point it to a specific folder on your computer, and it's going to be able to read and access everything within that folder as if it's its own little workspace, as if it is an employee. It's like you're onboarding an employee and you're giving it tasks, context, its own space to work. You're connecting it to the tools and allowing it to do the work for you. It reads your files to understand who you are, how you write, and what you're working on. You give it a task and it executes step by step like a freelancer. This is the really important part. We're not going to be prompting it on a daily basis. Once I've set up a task, I don't want to touch it again. I'll show you an example. So one that I set up over the weekend and it's working great. So I don't know if any of you know about ManyChats, but ManyChats allows you to set up something called a DM automation. So let's say I have a post. I would do this later today. I will have a post on Instagram and it will say, hey, you guys really need to be using Claude Code. If you want to get the guide, comment the word guide underneath the video and I'll send it over to you. You'll see there's hundreds of comments of people saying guide or Cowork or whatever it is they want. ManyChats is an application which will then see that and send them a direct message saying, hey, here's a link to the guide. That allows me to add 200 or 250 emails to my newsletter every single day. So I'm adding thousands of people a month by using these automations. We liquidate them immediately so we can make a few £100 per day or £1,000 per day on those sales from that automation. So that's what we're doing. Now, that works in Instagram because it does not work on TikTok. It does not work on LinkedIn. It does not work on YouTube. However, what I can do, and what I have done, is I've set up Claude Cowork to take control of my machine. So Claude Cowork will, with the instructions that I've given it, go into TikTok Studio in particular. I'll show you this scheduled task here. It will go to here and reply to unreplied guide comments with rotating link messages. So it will go through all of those people who have written to me. It will click around as if I'm a human being using TikTok Studio, and it will send those messages. It will say, here's the thing you're looking for. And I've set up rules like max 40 per run, wait 20 seconds, and then we run this every hour, hourly. You can see all of these histories of runs. This allows me to do a ManyChats type automation on TikTok. I can also do it on YouTube. In fact, I do it on YouTube. This is a very basic example of a task that can be set up. Importantly, see these instructions here. I am not going into Claude each time and saying, hey, can you go ahead and comment on those posts? Can you go ahead and send those links? That would be incredibly inefficient. Instead, I write up a bunch of instructions, I give it the context, and then we set it up to run automatically for me. We are moving from prompts to files. We're giving it a file that has all of the context it needs. We're giving it a file that has instructions. It has the do this, do not do this. It has my tone of voice. And we're giving it a file system. I can't actually show you my file system on screen, but it looks a bit like this. So I will have a set of folders. One that will be about me. It will have information about who Kyle is, what my business is, my product lines. You would just put in everything about your business. You would then have projects. So I have multiple different projects on the go. Inside of my projects folder, I have things that are active and things that are pending. When I want to capture an idea, I will quickly make up a folder, put a pending project in there. I'm not doing any of this. I'm asking the AI to do it. Templates, where I can put examples of outputs I want and it can draw on them. This is how we structure our work. It's not about us going to the tool and chatting to it. It is about setting up our tasks once, and then it will do that from now on. It's much closer to hiring a human being. What you need to think about is, what can you do with this? And that starts with your problems. It doesn't start with what are all the cool things that AI can do. It starts with, what do I actually need to get off my plate? That's where a lot of people get this wrong. This is what I see people struggle with OpenClaw as well. Lots of people asking, what do we actually use OpenClaw for? You need to use your imagination. You need to think as a manager. You need to think as a business owner about what it is you need off your plate. So again, a very basic example, this Claude TikTok reply bot. I don't want to be doing it every single day, going onto TikTok and responding to people. My time's worth too much. I need that automated. You need to sit down and work out what tasks you should be using artificial intelligence on. That's on you. That's not on the tool. I see a lot of people get stuck here. Oh, Tommy, you can't, I can't send it from here. I'll send out the guide for this and a PDF which goes through and helps you set all of this up. I'll send it out in the newsletter. And specifically, what's really cool about this stuff is I'm going to tell you all of this stuff. You just need to take the newsletter I'm going to publish, take the PDF guide that goes along with this, take this slide deck, take the PDF, take the newsletter, chuck it all into Claude and say, hey, I saw some British guy talking about this stuff. Can you set this up for me? You don't need to actually understand everything that's going on. It's really useful for you to understand this stuff, but you don't need to implement it. You can copy paste all of this stuff into Cowork and say, hey, do this for me. Whenever you see, I better be able to find one very quickly. If you're on Twitter, for example, there'll be something like, must be a way to find it. People are sharing these articles. Oh, I use Claude to do this. Here we go. No, that's not one. I'm getting distracted. Once you find a guide of something that you think would be cool, you can just give it to Claude. Here we go. AI's coming for your job. No, that's not one. Here we go. How a personal agent will change your entire life in one day. Read through this and be like, oh, cool. I would love to do this, but I don't know how to do this. This seems complicated. Copy and paste all of this, chuck it into Claude Cowork or Claude Code and say, hey, do this for me. And it will use that as a bunch of instructions. So whenever you see something that would be a cool project that you'd love to do with AI, just save it. Keep a copy of it. I'll put in the newsletter all of this stuff that I'm covering today, and you'll be able to copy into Cowork. Cowork only works on the desktop. You're going to have to go to Claude app, installing Claude desktop. It is on Windows and Mac OS. It's free to download, but you will need to use your Anthropic subscription. You will need the $20 a month plan at a minimum. I have the $200 a month plan, but that's because I use it very heavily. You might need to go to $100 a month. However, start at $20 a month. That should be more than enough. And if you find you are using it and running out of usage, maybe you want to bump to max. But if you're doing that, then it means you're getting a lot of productivity. Cowork sessions do use a fair amount of resources. And then always use Opus 4.6, especially if you're on the $100 a month. You might switch it to Sonnet if you're on the $20 a month. You're going to be limiting yourself. That's the problem. What you're going to do is you're going to build your infrastructure. You're going to give Claude Cowork a workspace, basically. I'll show you what that looks like, because this sounds complicated. But again, we just tell the AI what we want. So this already has a workspace, but let's say I've got a new task. I can give it a folder. So it's already got a folder here. I can ask it to set up its own folder. Let's say, let me choose a different folder. I'll just make a test folder, test. So it's going to say, can I work in this folder? I'll say yes. And then we'll say, what do we want to do? I want to build a system where I can drop my invoices and you sort, order, and send to bookkeeper. Let's set up the structure. Ask me questions. We'd start with something like this. This is very basic, but can you see the reason I want to show you this is on the right hand side, it has created this Claude MD Markdown is basically its brains. It's its main document that it's going to refer to every time it's running requests for you. And you can see that it's going to ask me questions. So where do you want to drop your invoices? Should I watch a specific folder on your computer, or would you prefer to upload them manually each time? So watch a folder. I'd probably set it on a Google Drive or something. What format are invoices typically in? PDFs. How should invoices be sorted and organized? Probably, let's say, by month and vendor. Can't even type. We don't have to be able to type anymore. How do you want the invoices sent to your bookkeeper? It will be email. And then it will go ahead and start to plan that project. Now, if I was doing this in ChatGPT or in Claude Chat, it would not have access to all of this. It would not be able to set up these custom instructions. It would not have context files. It would not have a folder that it can work out of. That's how we're shifting into being able to do rather than just being able to chat. What's your bookkeeper's? I'll provide it later. What information do you want extracted? Basics is fine. How often should invoices be batched? Monthly. I've got some invoices and I need some help dealing with them. Let's work it out. And can you see the progress? It's set up. So it says 1, setting up directory structure. 2, read PDF skill. I'm not going to talk about skills in general today. I'll probably do it later in the week. But a skill is basically a package of instructions, and specialists have made them, and we can do pretty much anything with them. They're amazing. It made the folder structure, created the PDF skill. It is building the invoice processing script. It's writing the code. Create a scheduled task for monthly processing. We can schedule recurring tasks. Really cool. Test with sample invoice to verify the pipeline. So it is going ahead and it is building all of that for me. Again, can't emphasize this enough. The shift from chat to doing. The only chat element was this. I told it, hey, I need some help with my bookkeeping. I could have even been less specific than this. I could have said, bookkeeping takes up a huge amount of time each month. What can we do? Something very basic, and it'd be like, okay, let's try and diagnose what that problem is and let's work out a system to help you with. You can do that with anything in your life. And it's not just going to help you by talking to you, it's going to build for you. So it's written the script now. There we go. It's written some Python probably. And then at the end of this, it will say, hey, do you want to create a scheduled task? I'll let it do that. So let me create a sample invoice. Okay, it's testing for me. It's doing the test. Let me create the folder structure. Let me actually go and have a look. You won't be able to see this on screen, but it should have created a little structure for me. Yep, I can see it. So I can see it's made, it's got all the documents in there. Oh, wow, yeah. It's doing a really good job. And it is working all of this out itself. Now, this is a very simple toy project. You can do this, or you can build something more complicated. Everything works now. Let me set up a scheduled task. So what it's now going to do is scheduled tasks. Now, these were only added into Cowork 2 weeks ago. What they are doing, the Cowork team are being very smart here. They are looking at all the things that people love about ClaudeBot and replicating them into Cowork. Because they saw people went mad for ClaudeBot back in January, but ClaudeBot or OpenClaw is a bit more technical to set up. If you get it wrong, it's highly risky. So a lot of people, less technical people, are like, I don't get it. This is too much. I don't know how to do this. And they stepped away from it. That's absolutely fine. What Claude's doing right now, Anthropic with their Claude Cowork ecosystem, is they are stepping into the gap and providing a safer, easier to use version. Notice here it says scheduled task. So monthly invoice processor. Process incoming PDF invoices, extract vendor data amounts, sort into vendor folders, and generate a summary for the bookkeeper. So I can now set that up as a scheduled task. And that should appear in my scheduled list, which means that all I do over the month is drop invoices into a folder. And then once a month, it will all be batch processed and then sent off to my bookkeeper. Now, I might want to change that. I might want it to process every single week, give me oversight first so I can check its work, make sure it's working. That's probably a good idea. I would also add the ability for me to manually trigger the send. I don't want it to do everything and then send off the wrong thing, especially during my first month or two using this. I'd add some safety guards onto it. I would also set up over time the ability to pipe those invoices directly into the folder, so I'm never even touching them. Over time, I would just automate it. So to use it right now, we can go into scheduled tasks, and it's created, there you go, a monthly invoice processor. And see, it's written up all of these instructions for me. It has written it for me. It has created the information and the folder structure and created everything for me. And that took a few minutes. Again, very basic example, but you can see if you go through your business and you audit all the tasks that you're doing on a daily basis, you can start to build out these scheduled automations, these scheduled tasks, and just get a lot off your plate, a huge amount off your plate. And you could do an SEO audit. It would go to Google Search Console and click around, do an SEO audit every week, and then send you a Slack message with its findings. That's something you can set up. There's a huge amount you can do. The technical setup itself, check out the newsletter because I'll give you a PDF file which will basically get it done itself. Let's talk about skills quickly. Skills are the ability, let's pull up Anthropic skills. There's a public repository of skills. So skills are like a bundle of documents and instructions for doing any task. What people have done is created these bundles. So for example, the MCP builder, let's do one for meta ads, for example. Here we go, Claude ads. I'm running some adverts right now on Meta. And part of the job that I need to do once a week or so is basically check how many leads we're getting per spend, what the return on ad spend is. It's a doable job, but it's something I'd like to get off my plate. So I can set up this skill. This is a comprehensive paid advertising audit and optimization skill for Claude Code. I'm not sure if it works in Cowork, but it'll work for now. It will connect to my account. So Google, Meta, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Microsoft Ads. For me, it would be Meta and Google, primarily YouTube. And then it will be able to audit those adverts, run through checklists of instructions, give suggestions, and do the work for me. So you can see we've got ads, individual sub-skills, ads audits, budget, competitors. So this is probably a competitor research skill, for example. Landing pages, I think it can assess landing pages, TikTok, etc. So everything is in here. What people have done is they've put together all of their knowledge about a particular area into a skill, and then you can give that skill package to Claude Code or to Claude Cowork. This is just one example. There are thousands of skills. So here, this is a list of 30 Claude skills. Not all of them will be good, obviously, but this allows us to basically plug expertise into our systems. And one of the really useful things is you can literally just ask Cowork to go and find a skill. So let's see what that looks like. Let's say I wanted to set up a daily meta ads report that links to my Stripe and collates meta leads versus sales to test for advertising cost liquidation. I'm just going to ask how. This is a question that as someone who runs ads, I'd be able to ask, not because I'm technical. I don't need to be a coder. Anyone can ask this question, and you can ask questions with this level of technical naivety, and Claude is going to be able to help you work everything out. So what is the daily report in? Ideally, it would pull from use Cowork to navigate to page and pull. I want it fully automated. So Cowork can take control of a browser and manipulate that browser. Business Suite, how do you currently access your Stripe data? I'll get it through the API. What key metrics matter most to you, ad spend versus revenue? Yes, please. So ask me the important questions and it's going to build out that system for me. Hopefully, those of you who are watching it right now will be realizing that, oh shit, there's a lot of tasks that I can automate, that I can set up with this. That's all I want you to be feeling right now. You can get into a lot more detail. We can get fancy with this. I just want to show you that Cowork is a game changer because it allows us to go from chatting with an AI to having the AI do stuff for us, work proactively. I'm not just going to get the AI to do something. I'm going to set up the AI so it does it on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis. So I'm beginning to automate out my work and I'm able to do the work now of 10, 15 people instead of one. This is why the stock market crashed, because there is a decoupling of human labor and output. That is decoupling extremely quickly. I know for a fact I'm doing the work of 10 people right now because of tools like this, because of Claude Code and because of Claude Cowork. I can now do obscene amounts of work. If you scale that up over the workforce, you have interesting implications from that. So some caveats. It's not cheap. It's the first one. So it's going to burn through your usage. Cowork is going to absolutely rip through the $20 plan. Some of you might rush off and go and grab Cowork and get excited about it. That's fantastic. But if you're on a $20 a month plan, you'll set up some tasks, you'll get them all scheduled and running, and then you'll come back and it'll be like, I'm out, I haven't got any tokens. So that is a problem. Realistically, you'll probably need to be on the $100 a month. It's a lot of money. However, if you are running a business, that is a small expense. You have to compare this to the time it takes you. For me, like the example I showed you, responding to TikTok comments and sending them a lead magnet, I cannot be doing that every single hour, logging onto TikTok and sending messages to people. That is not an effective use of time, and it's much better to spend $100 a month automating it. And I can automate another 10, 20 tasks. Desktop only. If you close the app, the session dies. So no mobile or web support. You need a computer that is always on. So for me, that is a little Mac Mini. This little Mac Mini just sits there and it is constantly running Claude Code and Claude work for me, and it's able to run tasks in the background. Now, as a more advanced session, what I might show you, maybe later in the week, is how you connect. You have a brain sitting on your computer connected to Obsidian. It's connected to Claude Code and my Claude. So I'm able to work across different platforms and it's able to pull things together. It also knows what I'm doing in ChatGPT and in Codex because it pulls it through GitHub and Obsidian. That's a lot more complicated, but that is me centralizing everything so that I don't lose track of projects. Because when I'm working on 10, 15 things at a time, the bottleneck becomes me. I forget what I'm meant to be doing. So I've built my own version of OpenClaw basically, and is keeping me on track with everything. That's a lot more advanced. So maybe we'll talk about that later in the week. So you do need a desktop. You need something that is constantly running all of the time. Mac Mini is perfect. Still a preview. It can misread files or take weird approaches. Parallel agents occasionally go rogue. Always review the output. This is 100% the case with any AI system. The tricky thing here is that when you are setting things up and they're scheduled and they're automated, because they're going to happen at scale, you need to make sure that it is working. So whenever you set something up, have it the first few times send things to you for manual checking, and it can send you an email. You can say, hey, send me an email and I will manually check it and then revert back to you. Imagine you are bringing in a new staff member. You're doing the same thing, because if we schedule and scale something that isn't working, it's going to be even more damaging. So you have to be careful here, not for quick questions. So what I'll do is I use chat for quick hits. Okay, I'm thinking about doing this. What would this look like? But then I move those chats, the final outcomes, the decisions from my chats, I move them into Cowork or to Claude Code if I want to automate or if I want to build. Don't waste your credits in Cowork and Claude Code when you can use chat, because chat is cheaper. Hell, you could even use ChatGPT, which is even cheaper for your everyday decision making and chatting, and then you move it into Cowork and into Claude Code, which again I'll talk about later. That's a whole nother element for the actual getting stuff done. And then there's other weird things. This falls under still in preview. Things like so I use the Claude extension in Chrome to give Cowork access to your Chrome browser. So it's able to move around, click on things, log into stuff. That extension for me is always disconnecting, which is very annoying. I seem to have got it working for the last couple of days, absolutely fine. But there are still teething issues like that. This is still very early technology. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of this, including the more technical details about setting up your instructions, about setting up your different markdown files. I have an anti-AI writing style file, which I borrow from the Wikipedia Signs of AI Writing. I have this hard-coded into my agent. I will put technical details and the folder structure into a PDF guide. That will be in the newsletter on Tuesday. That PDF guide you're going to copy into Cowork, and it's going to get everything set up for you. I'm not going to go through it in detail. That means you can get all of this up and running in less than an hour, maybe 30 minutes. You're going to install the app. You're going to connect it to ChatGPT. You'll put together your folders. Again, if you subscribe to the newsletter, I'll send you the PDF and you're going to give it those instructions. You're going to write your identity files. The best way to do this is to have it interview you about you, who you are, what you do, what you like, what you don't like. Run you through an interview process. You can even use your microphone to respond so that it can build a picture of you and how to work for you. And then within 30 minutes or so, you'll be able to run your first task. I will give you that PDF file. There's a lot going on in the Claude ecosystem. Cowork I use as the core automation. However, if I want to build software, I'm using Claude Code. Claude Code is amazing, and I use them both together. Connectors, this allows you to connect Cowork and to connect Claude Code into other things, into your email, into Slack, into Notion. I've got mine connected to Notion, Obsidian, etc. Skills, I touched on briefly, the ability to give it a package of information so that it can learn how to do a task. Think of it like in the Matrix when Neo gets that plug in the back of his head and he learns Kung Fu. That's what skills are. We can give our assistant the ability to do anything by giving it the right skills. And then MCP, Model Context Protocol, which allows us to connect to larger infrastructure. So for example, if I wanted to connect to the Meta ads infrastructure, I would connect to Meta ads using Facebook and Instagram advertising platform. I'd connect using the MCP, and then I would use skills to manage that connection. So this creates the connection, and then the skills will give it the kind of rules of play, how you're going to talk to Meta advertising, what you're going to do there, etc. This is all connected. I'm going to be doing a few more lives over this week, basically going through step by step, helping you piece together how this works, because there's a lot going on here and it's all relatively new. However, the next step, this is AI in 2026, is not chatting, AI doing stuff for you, which is important. So hopefully this is useful. Make sure you're signed up for the newsletter. You can do that at aiwithkyle.com. Join the community and you'll be sent the newsletter. Also keep an eye on social media because I'm going to be talking about all of this stuff all of this week. So in the newsletter, you'll get this deck. You'll get a PDF guide step by step, plus the written version of what I've been covering today and the trimmed YouTube version cleaned up of this live stream. Hopefully that is useful. Make sure you are signed up at aiwithkyle.com/join to get all of that totally free. I've been chatting non-stop for 40 minutes, so I'm going to hop on over to questions. Morning, Jesse. Is Claude the best for use in entrepreneurship? Depends what you're doing. AI does do the business for you. Entrepreneurship is still about creating value. Work out what you're doing, how you're going to create value by solving problems for people. The way you're solving those problems is via creating images. Levels, Peter. His business, one of his biggest right now, is photoai.com. He's making 100,000 a month on photoai.com. That is built on 40,000 lines of code. 40,000 lines of code, 100,000 revenue and 80,000 profit. He is using Nano Banana Pro. You have to match the AI to what outcome you actually want. So you wouldn't be able to do this business, this type of entrepreneurship with Claude. You can build the code, but it won't be able to generate images because Claude is not an image generator. So it depends what your business is. Start with that first. 5.1, is it going to be removed? Yes, 5.1 is being removed on the 11th of March from the application. Now, it will still be in the API. So here we go, 5.1. So you can still get it through Playground. You can still build applications with it, but you will not be able to get it inside of the ChatGPT app anymore, retiring from the app because they just want you to be using the newest model. So that'll be gone. Oh, morning, Katie. How are you? I saw that you had a video pop off. Is this you? Yes, it is. Oh, 33,000. Katie. Whoa. So Katie has been working through my audience accelerator program where I basically get people doing short video because I think there's a really massive opportunity for us just to talk to a camera right now. I'm seeing it on social media. It's being called yapping. So I'm teaching yapping, but I see Katie, one of her videos is shot to 33,000 and we'll probably keep going. Once you get one that goes, it just keeps going, which is very exciting. Make sure you're following Katie, even if you're not a vet. Oh, you're still here, Katie. I did. 33,000 is amazing. It's amazing that first time a video hits, isn't it? Because in the Authority Accelerator, I'm very boring about this. I'm like, you just have to keep posting, again and again. And eventually it will kick off. And you're not going to believe me, but then it will kick off one day and then you'll be like, oh, okay, he was right. And I know everyone has to go through that journey. And for some people, they'll get their first viral post or their first 10,000, 100,000 in a few days. For some people, it might take months. There's really no way to know. But if you just keep plugging away, it will come eventually. So the idea is to make it as easy as possible to create content by using AI to script, yes, but learning the skill of being able to just talk to camera so that creating a daily video does not take hours. Because I see some people get into social media and they spend hours in CapCut editing and refining. And then if the video doesn't pop off, if the video doesn't do well and have spent 3 hours on the thing, that is, emotionally devastating. So instead, I highly recommend creating almost like disposable videos for the first 30 days, 60 days, where you don't really care if it pops off or not and just go again and again and again and again, because you're getting better at the skill of talking to camera by repetition. And eventually the algorithm will suddenly, for reasons unknown to us, be like, okay, cool, now is your day. That's amazing, Katie. I'm really excited to see where that goes to, because yesterday that was 20,000. So I think that one is away. Harms, it says, you smashed it, Katie. Yeah, so there are these kind of invisible barriers. The first one's 200 on TikTok in particular, where if you don't get past 200, that's the testing budget. But then once you get past 10,000 or so, it will just keep going. And this, I wouldn't be that surprised if this hits 50,000, maybe even 100. But if it doesn't, 30,000 is still very good. Very cool. So make sure you're following Katie. After you have Claude Cowork and project file, can you move the project file? Tiffany, that's not a question for me. That's a question for Claude. But yes, I think so. Ask Claude though. I made a mistake. I put it in the wrong place. I want to shift things around. I know you can move GitHub files as long as you reconnect them. It'll be fine. You just need to tell it where everything is and ask it to reconnect and check everything is available, and it should be fine. But ask Claude. Maybe I should just ask Claude Cowork. Yes. It's funny how increasingly the answer to all questions is, don't know, just ask AI. Can AI do this? Yeah, probably. Give it a go. I'm giving a talk at Google. A lot of the talk is about human in the loop. So the necessity of keeping a human being in place so that our outputs don't sound entirely like AI. We just need to zhuzh it with a bit of humanity, especially in things like content. But the other topic we're talking about is adoption. The question the guy I'm talking to and myself will get a lot is, oh, can AI do this? Can AI do that? Oh, do you think AI would be able to do this task? The answer to which is always, probably, ask Claude. Increasingly, it will be able to work it out. As I was showing you with the Claude code stuff, I can give it a really basic prompt like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to get my Meta daily ads report, check Stripe, and see if my ads are leading to revenue. How do I do this? And it went through a series of questions trying to work out what it is I'm trying to do. It's gone and searched for connectors. So let me see if there's connectors. So Attio, Pendo, PubMed, Stripe. So look for Stripe connectors. There's a Stripe connector available that can pull your payment data directly. No browser scraping needed. Good. Because scraping Claude is probably not a great idea. There's no meta ad connector, so we use browser automation for that. Let me suggest the Stripe connector first, and then boom, click that. I would connect it to Stripe. Here's the plan. So we'll build a daily report. So it would just walk me through it. So I can ask this dumb question at the beginning saying, hey, do you think you can help me with this? And AI would be like, yeah, sure. And it will get to work. And what's really cool about Cowork is it does the work for you. So previously, if I did this in chat, or if I did this in ChatGPT, it would say, yes, absolutely. Let me search these things for you. Let me see what the MCP connectors are. Let me see how we would do this. And it would give me a plan. Cowork and code will do it for you. That is the shift. So important. Could I create a dashboard to view the report? Yes, 100%. It'd probably create an HTML dashboard, and then the HTML would connect to whatever's in the folder. But if you needed something more complicated, something that was connected to a database, for example, I would probably use Claude Code. If it's just something that it can pull, let's say I'm doing advertising, and if it's able to just throw things into a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet and pull the information off there and then display it on the dashboard, we could do that with Codework. Absolutely no problem. If we needed a database in the background, then we'd probably use code and we'd build it out. But what you can always do is you can start with Cowork, get the basics in play, and if it's something that you feel needs scaling up, if it needs turning into a proper piece of software, then 100% you can do it in code. But building software from scratch is not necessarily the best use of time if you can build a quick Codework automation to do it for you. So my kind of progression path is I start in chat with, hey, this is the kind of thing I'm trying to do. Do you think we can do it? I will use that to solidify what I actually want. Most of the time I don't really know, but I'll use the chat to get a more concrete idea of what my objective is. I will then take that over to Cowork, build out a basic scheduled automation. If it's something that Cowork can't deal with, I need it hosted on a server, then I will move it over to code. So that is generally, many caveats, going to be the progression route. What I think will happen, because this is confusing, the fact that they have chat, Cowork, and code. Look at that, a scheduled task just began. This is confusing right now. The fact that they have chat, Cowork, and code confuses people. They're all called Claude. It's confusing. It's a mess. I think what will happen over time, over this year, is they will just come together. And we will basically have one interface where we can choose the level of complexity and the level of detail. Cowork, to me, feels like it's this weird middle ground between chat and code, because code is too technical, too complex for people. So they came up with Cowork as a less technical version of Claude Code. I think it will all come together eventually. Increasingly, we won't be seeing the code. We won't be seeing anything going on. We will just see the traces. We'll see what it's doing. Can it link to Airtable? Yes. Yeah, you can link to Airtable, no problem. So instead of building out a whole SQL database, you could host it in an Airtable. So that is a nice intermediary between Cowork and an Excel sheet sitting on your desktop, a bit basic, or Claude Code and setting up a SQL database, setting up Superbase, setting up Firebase, and building a proper application, hosting it. In between, you could connect Cowork to Airtable. That will work perfectly, really well. That's a great idea. Thank you. Didn't think of that. So your replies on comments and posts and inbox messages on TT are automated. Not all of them, no. So literally, I can't show it to you on screen. So only the people asking for guides. So if they want the PDF guide of a lead magnet, then that is automated. The rest of the comments is me. I wouldn't trust it to do general commenting. Social media is meant to be social. So the only ones that are automated are when people comment the word guide and I send them a link to a guide. Are there any royalties incurred when using AI for productivity and launching your own site and app? Do you mean royalties to Claude? Pick or no? So what if you launch an app and it is built? So there's two ways to use AI. You can either use AI to build the initial application, in which case you're just paying for the usage of the AI, and once you launch, that's it, you're done. Or if you have an app that has AI inside of it, so it takes information from the user, sends it to AI, and then sends it back. For example, Cal AI, which is the company that two 17-year-olds built. They were making $30 million a year and they sold to MyFitnessPal. So what that was, the ability for you to take your phone, take a photo of a plate of food. It would send that photo to, I think, ChatGPT. ChatGPT would be like, oh yeah, 6 string beans and a couple of new potatoes and a piece of meat that's probably 100 grams of meat, 200 grams of meat or whatever. And then it would use that to estimate calories and send it back. Because of that link from the application to ChatGPT and then ChatGPT sending back to the application, AI is being used inside of the app. So you can either use AI to build the app or you can use AI inside of the app. These are two separate things. If you're using AI inside of the app, then there's going to be a cost each time you send information back and forth. It's pennies. So that is their royalty. It's the usage. That's because you are buying server time, basically. That's the closest I have to royalty. This is freaking astonishing. I assume that's in reference to Cowork. Go and use it. Ellen says, thank you, Kyle, for all of this. I'm new to all of this, but have a new Mac Mini M4 and looking to dive in. It's a good place to be. That's what I have right now. It's a wonderful little thing, the M4. I might be wrong, but could you also do this with Codex by using Codex automations? Yes, you can. And Codex is great. Codex is I've got it also open on my computer, but I can't pull it up. Codex has skills and automation. In the automations tag, you'd be able to do something similar to this, 100%. Codex is from ChatGPT. It's really good. Codex is a neater version of this. We have Cowork, we have Code, and we have Chat. And Cowork and Code are similar but different, with Code being for developing applications and Cowork being for more automation. You can also do scheduled tasks on Codex, ChatGPT Codex. So ChatGPT, in a weird way, have pulled it together. They've made it simpler to use, and Codex is really good. It's also cheaper. So on the $20 a month plan with Codex, you'll be able to do a lot more. I think until April, they have double usage as well. And it's a good model. Codex, we're still on 5.3. Codex 5.3 is very good. It's a very good model. So both of the main companies are fighting over this. So Anthropic has Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code. ChatGPT has ChatGPT, the chat app, and then it has Codex, which is Cowork like code. It's confusing. And Gemini has nothing. Google Gemini doesn't really have anything like this. You can set it up in anti-gravity, but it's not the same. It's the one big missing piece from Google, actually. I say this as somebody who's going to lunch with Google and doing an interview with Google, but I'll tell them this. I'll be honest. I need to solve a puzzle for TikTok. There we go. After live streaming for an hour, TikTok makes me do a puzzle. I need to set up an automation to take control of that. Could I ask, is Cowork an agent? Is Codex? Yes. Or do you have to create agents inside? Cowork and Codex create agents to go off and do tasks. That's a better way of saying it. So Cowork and Codex Cowork is a piece of software in which you can create agents. Codex is also a piece of software, but it's also a model. There's a model called Codex. Is there any way to route Cowork to third-party models? I don't think so. Can we use a local LLM? Let's see if I could connect it to LM Studio, for example. I think not. That's a really good question. Okay. This is saying, yeah, we could. Yeah, so we're still using Claude for the main running of the automation, but we could ping elements of that automation to a local LLM or to a third party if we wanted to. But no, there isn't a way to directly use a different model inside of the application itself, but we could connect in another model. What program are you using? This is Claude. It's the Claude app, and the Claude app has Claude Cowork and Claude Code in it. But we've mainly been looking at Claude Cowork and me trying to nudge people into trying it out. Oh, thank you, Ole. Skills are awesome. I've made a couple of skills for myself to make my life easier. So that's something I also want to talk about. So Anthropic, I won't talk about it today because we've run out of time. There's a lot to talk about. Anthropic just put out a guide, which is on my list to cover. Okay, Department of War. Maybe it's on Claude. I don't know why they have so many. Claude Marketplace. All right, Claude Skills. They've just put out a 33-page guide about building skills. The complete guide to building skills for Claude is a 33-page guide about creating skills. Oli mentioned in chat that he's making skills at the moment. I briefly showed you how we can connect to skill packages inside of Cowork. And what that does is extends the capabilities by giving a set of guidelines, a set of instructions to Claude so that it knows how to act in different capacities. It's like Neo in the Matrix, getting the jack in the back of his head, and now he knows Kung Fu. We can do that with Claude, but we can give it many different skill packages. You can also make your own skill packages. So for example, the newsletter that I write every single day, what I do is I take the transcript from this live and it goes into Claude in order to prepare that first draft. That is done with the help of a skill. The skill has my tone of voice. It has the kind of phrases that I use. It has things like make sure you use British English because that's how I talk. Although it requires me to refine it over time because it kept using words like properly mental. That's what it kept adding. I think I said once, properly mental on a live stream. Yeah, I love that. That's very British. So it would put it into every single thing. It'd be like, oh, Anthropic is standing up to the Pentagon. That's properly mental. It's like, come on. So you have to still refine and tweak these Claude skill packages. Otherwise, they're not very smart. So this is a guide from Anthropic about skills. Later in this week, do a live stream on skills in particular, and I will cover this guide as well and include it for everybody. But if you look it up now, you'll be able to find it because that looks like a useful resource. They've got a lot of stuff here about the technical requirements and how to set up the YAML. Just work with Claude for a while and then say, hey, can you wrap this up in a skills package for me, please? That's enough, honestly. Just switch from GPT to Claude. What key tips do you have? Projects. I know they have projects in ChatGPT, but projects in Claude are really powerful. I've always found them a lot better inside of Claude. It's a lot more to the information you give to it. So definitely explore projects. I might do a basic, hey, ChatGPT to Claude presentation as well, but I think that would be useful. How about security? I'm always concerned about security. That's one of the main reasons why you'd want to use Cowork over OpenClaw. OpenClaw is really exciting, but it is the Wild West. And when it comes to security, it's a nightmare. I think it was Ali K. Miller. She was at an OpenClaw meetup over in America. And one of the questions was, put your hand up if you think that your setup is 100% secure. Not a single hand. A lot of the people who use OpenClaw, YOLO, let's go nuts. OpenClaw does have real problems in terms of security, and it's basically a one-person team, Peter. I know he has contributors, but it's basically Peter. So there are limitations that you need to keep in mind there. What they're doing with Cowork is they're a bit behind OpenClaw. They're releasing things bit by bit once they know that they are safe. Now, if you instruct Cowork to connect to your bank account and you instruct Cowork to trade stocks, you're suddenly opening up new vectors of attack. You're opening up new potential problems. So you need to be careful. If I give it access to Stripe, I would only give it read-only access. What I've noticed though with OpenClaw in particular is that it doesn't necessarily have the guardrails in place to protect your safety, whereas Claude very much will. So if I connected to Stripe, Cowork would be like, oh, you should only give me access to blah, blah, blah. Never give me the API keys. It would go through all of the steps. So they're more cognizant about safety, but it's not 100% safe. Any system where you are abdicating responsibility to an agent, there's always going to be risks. One great thing about OpenSO is it's very prompt injection resistant. Probably the most difficult to prompt inject. So at least you have that benefit out of the box. Did you create your free course or did you purchase it from someone else? What free course? No, I haven't purchased any free courses from anyone else. It's fairly simple. Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google all have good docs on how to set it up. Actually, if you go to anthropic.skilljar.com, there is a course called Claude 101. I learn how to use Claude for everyday work, tasks, understand core features. It's free, and you get a little certificate at the end, which you can put on LinkedIn if you want. And it talks about this kind of stuff. The first couple of lessons is probably fine. Conversations, how to get better results, explaining the difference between chat, cowork, and code. Good luck. It's quite complex. And then working with projects. They don't talk about MCPs or anything complex. So this would be a really good tool for it. So anthropic.skilljar.com, Claude 101. That's going to be the best place to start. Convert to Cowork. Cowork will, for the scheduled tasks, it will create that as separate instances, which will run on their schedule, but you don't need to keep the chats open. Does it have memory and maintain it? Yeah. So the memory will live in a folder on your computer. That's what's really cool about Cowork. And it will do it via claude.md and any other markdown files that you give it. Let's start building an app with rocket.new. How can I switch to Claude Code for that? I don't know what rocket.new is, but if rocket.new has the ability to connect to GitHub. So see this one down here? This is GitHub. Connect, if you're on Lovable, if you're on Replit, if you're on Bolt, V0, whatever, connect it to GitHub, which is this little cat here, and then also connect Claude Code to that same GitHub account, put them in the same repository. All of the files that have come from Rocket Beta will be sent up into this repository in the cloud, and Claude Code will be able to see all those files, and you'll be able to work in Claude Code. This is how I do a lot of my work. I will prototype in Lovable, connect it to GitHub, and then pull that down into Codex or into Claude Code to continue the work if I need to build it out more. That's going to be the key. This integration here is your ticket to liberating your files and making them available anywhere. Is there any way to route Cowork to third-party models like Claude Code? I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the ability to do it. But yeah, George says you can use Claude Code. I'm not seeing that in Cowork. That doesn't mean it's not possible. I'm just not seeing it at the moment. Also, remember, Cowork is about a month old. It's new. What's the best path to learn AI to get a job, no coding experience? Just start building. Don't none of the university courses, etc., are struggling to keep up. So just start building. It depends on what you want to do, though. If you want to learn to build AIs, that is doable. It's just going to be a very long pathway. You're going to have to learn computer science, you're going to have to learn to code, you are then going to have to learn machine learning and artificial intelligence on top of all of that. So it's doable, it's just going to be a long way off. In 5 years, 10 years, will those people be needed? Because AI is moving so fast. It's a risky one. So what I would start doing is just start building. There are people up here at this kind of level 8, people who are building, people like Andrej Karpathy, who are building models from scratch and understand at a deep level how this stuff works. That's going to take a while. That's an academic route still. So you can 100% go in that direction. It's just going to take years. There's no way around that. Most of us don't need to be at that level. Most of us can be down here, starting to build with artificial intelligence in order to sharpen our skills. So I'm not going to say don't learn to code, but I am going to emphasize building as quickly as possible. So if you're looking for a job, start building stuff, build a portfolio, and then go to companies and say, hey, this is what I built. This is the kind of stuff I can build within your organization. We already are seeing positions opening up for people who can do like rapid prototyping. They're not calling it vibe coding, but it's basically somebody who can build fast. Because we're moving from a business environment where people will come up with an idea, have endless meetings about it, draw together proposals, scope out the project, and then work on it over months. That is not going to work anymore. So now the gap from idea to a basic version has shrunk. We're talking hours potentially. So if you can go into organizations with that skill and help them to rapidly prototype ideas, right now it's the tech companies who need this. That is going to expand. So those skills will be useful in other businesses moving forward. So I would do that. Get into Kyle's intro program. If you sign up for the newsletter, there's a lot of free stuff on my website. This is AIwithKyle.com. There's a whole bunch of courses here. This is how to start a business using AI. This is how to start giving workshops to businesses about AI. And there's 100 plus playbooks that I've written over the last couple of years by hand. So there's a load of free stuff here. And if you join up, you'll also be put in the community and you'll get the daily update newsletter as well. Hopefully that's useful for you. That's all free. To upgrade a WordPress website safely, do you want to keep it on WordPress or you want to move it to somewhere else? WordPress is fine. There's nothing wrong with WordPress. For years, I built WordPress websites. I haven't touched it for a while, but it's still 60% of the websites on the internet. It's absolutely fine because it is nice and easy with the right plugins, with the right kind of drag and drop builders. It's nice and easy for the users to use in the back end, especially if you're deploying them for people. They're great. I would ask why you want to move off WordPress. If it's working fine, if it's not a problem, then you could just leave it. If you want to rebuild it as a modern website, I would give Claude Code. I would download your WordPress website, get it in a zip file, give it to Claude Code and say, hey, I want to rebuild this as something lightweight. I want to rebuild this as something better for SEO. That is easy for me to maintain moving forward. That I can still make edits on, etc., and see what it says, because it will be able to refactor that for sure. I've done it twice with websites, and again, both times just gave it to Claude Code and said, off you go, and it had no problems. Jeff says, Katie is an inspiration. Awesome. I'm way behind on the stream. Bear with me. You'll see this later then, Jeff. Yeah, Katie absolutely killed it. She's gone off to do vet work now, though. Yeah, so she's publishing that social media content and saving animal lives. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Somebody's saying, I do a lot with Claude Code and WordPress. You can do backend schema markups, SEO, plugin updates via SSH and WP command line interface. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so you can plug Claude Code into WP CLI command line interface. It will be able to talk directly to WordPress and sort things out. I wonder if there's a WordPress Claude skill. I bet there is. Claude WordPress skills. Here we go. Wants to do professional WordPress engineering skills for Claude Code, performance optimization, security auditing, Gutenberg block development. So if you want to keep it on WordPress, unless you really need to move off WordPress, you're probably fine. You're fine leaving it on there. There's nothing wrong with WordPress. But what you can do if you want to optimize and do some extra stuff is you can connect Claude Code to your WordPress using the command line interface, WP CLI. And that will allow Claude Code to talk directly to your WordPress. Let's see how many stars it's got. 100 stars. There might be a way for you to use a skill so that your Claude Code also has a bit more knowledge of how WordPress works. You'd give it something like this. There's probably some other ones that are better. This is just the first one I found. I'm new to AI. I want to build and make money on social media. Where do I start? I'm biased, but I think the AIwithKyle.com website is a good place to start. I've heard it's good. Bridget says it's good. You can join the community, and in here we're talking about how to build, how to use AI on a daily basis. In terms of social media, I actually have something called the AI Authority Accelerator. It's for if you want to talk about AI. Earlier on I showed you Dr. Katie Jackson, who is no longer on the stream. She's been going through the Authority Accelerator. These are her videos. The basic idea is to get you used to being on camera, to build that creative habit. She's got a video which has rocketed, and it's at 33,000 at the moment. She was on the live stream earlier saying thank you. This is all you, Katie. It's amazing. I'm going to finish up, otherwise we're going to have a billion things to edit. The longer I go, the more there is to edit, which is not fair. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't think I'll be doing a live because I'm going to go and give an interview at Google. I will get some footage and videos from the Google offices, though. It is not the new office, which I'm really upset about. They've got a new office in King's Cross, which I think is the height of the Shard, but on its side. It's absolutely massive, but it's not ready, and it is being colonised by foxes, which is the most London thing ever. It's got this beautiful long roof garden, this huge roof garden full of foxes. So I'm not going there, not because of the foxes. I think it's not ready, but I will be going to Google with the YouTube studio, so I'll get lots of photos. There will not be a live stream. I'm sorry about that. If you found this stuff that we covered today about Claude Code useful, then everything is going to be in the newsletter. It's at aiwithkyle.com, and I will give you both what I've discussed here, like why you should use Cowork, but I'm also going to give you a PDF which you will basically copy into Cowork, and it will get everything set up for you. Ultimately, you're just going to copy paste something into Cowork, press enter, answer some questions, and it will get everything set up for you. But that wouldn't have been a very long live stream if I just told you that. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you, Bran, for the many roses and the hearts. I will see you guys. Thank you so much.